We'll call the City Council regular meeting to order for Monday, September 16th, 2024. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Hoy.
Here.
Councilmember Burngeon. Here. Councilmember Burnett. Here. Councilmember Lean.
Here.
Councilmember Wilson.
Here.
All right. Any changes to the agenda?
None.
None. Anything? Katie, Steve?
None.
All right. Seeing no changes, I'll seek a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Holly, second by Steve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on. Nothing under announcements. Item 6 is our citizen comments. If there's anyone in attendance wishing to speak at this time, please step up to the podium. I'll just read this real quick. Citizen comments are a time for anyone to address the City Council on matters not on the agenda. Those speaking should state their name and address and limit their comments to 5 minutes. The council will not engage in discussion on your topic, but those issues requiring a response will be responded to by the next City Council meeting. You're good.
Esther Varga, 3094, 225th Street West. Good evening, Council, Mayor, attendant. I would just like to comment on the meeting we had with the Planning Commission. And some people would say that when you step up to this microphone, the decisions are already made. I would have been so happy if I could refute that statement, but unfortunately, it did not feel like that at the Planning Commission meeting. I also would like to point out that this commission here is called Responsible Government Unit. We are encouraged to be engaged in local government because that's where decisions are happening. But if you are the one who are making these decisions, and what are the point of the rules and the zoning and the regulations, there's always an exception. So but to me it feels like this RGU is like, here, dear goat, watch my cabbage while I'm gonna step out quickly. It's like we are trusting the goat with the cabbage. And I would also like to reflect on the tract comment, and one of the council members were asking tract about the comment on not near residential area, and the tract response was, oh, we meant high density. None of you council members refuted or dug into asking questions, so here is my take on it. High density, 200 people in one building matters. 200 people in 200 buildings don't matter. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir, yep.
Hi, I'm Nancy Arstead at 22165 Beaumont Avenue. I'm here also for the data center. As Minnesota continues its efforts to attract mega data centers to the state, what responsibility do the cities have to its citizens? Where are our safeguards when the cities vote to rezone land and allow industrial buildings to be built next to our homes and our neighborhoods? We have no protection. I was at last week's Planning Commission meeting, and it was clear that it was a setup. It was clear the committee already knew how they were going to vote. The public hearing was just for show. You, the city, had track talk. They showed us how great things were going to be. Then you had standing room only crowd of residents who requested that you not rezone land that is sandwiched between two long-standing residential neighborhoods. You are turning residential light commercial land into mixed-use industrial. We brought up our research, we brought up data, we brought up problems in other communities who are also dealing with these kind of things. And then you had TRAC come back and explain away all of our concerns as nothing, mere exaggerations, figments of our imagination, and that we are just too dim-witted to understand that this rezoning is actually to our benefit. The committee didn't blink and they passed the rezoning. They didn't even have the decency to pretend to sympathize. No one said, "We hear you. We understand. We know that you're concerned. We know you're frustrated." They, in unity, just quickly dismissed all of our research and data and voted to rezone. It was a sham. One city council member actually visited a Chaska data center with 4 or 5 buildings and felt that that was good research, that there was no noise. Tract has admitted there will be constant noise generated from this data center. Tract's own presentation stated that data centers are best located away from residential areas. There are reasons for that. We brought up the reasons. At Tract's community meeting on August 20th, Kristen Dean said, quote, "There will be noise generated from the data center," end quote. Meanwhile, last week, I heard several committee members claim they visited data centers, that there was magically no noise at any of the ones they visited. Noise is just one factor. Industrial buildings belong in industrial zones. This data center is going to be the biggest in the state. You heard them. You can't go visit one in Minnesota. We will be the guinea pigs. You, the city, are willing to sacrifice your residents for your own gain. Decent cities with integrity follow their zoning plans because that is what is fair for their residents who purchase their homes in your cities. They just don't rezone when money comes to town. After you pass this, and I know you will, as I'm sure this plan has been in place for years, I vow to work where I can to push for legislation in Minnesota to protect us, the citizens, and the residents from cities like Farmington and councils like yours, and I hope, because I hope there will be protections set up for us in the future that will protect our rights from big corp when cities won't. It takes integrity, and I don't see it. And I hope voters are paying attention to what's happening in this town because it's clear we need new leadership. All Minnesotans need to watch what's going on here because it's clear that, at least in Farmington, no one's home investment is safe in the hands of this city government. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's anyone else wishing to speak?
I'm Kathy Johnson, 22280 Bering Avenue, Farmington. I will just be very brief. I'm just really disappointed. I had the same response that Nancy did with regard to how the Planning Commission's vote went. And I think that there is a willingness on this council to treat us like we can just be sacrificed. But we're not beholden to the city of Farmington to provide a tax base. And believe me, I understand the importance of tax base. When you're asking us to sacrifice our property values, our standard of living, what we hold dear, living where we have lived, I've lived there for 45 years. This is an extreme breach from the Metropolitan Council's plan, the comp plan that was supposed to be in place until 2040. It is inappropriate and illegal. This is illegal spot zoning, and you're asking us to be the sacrificial lambs. Dirk Roddy said, oh, there's even one part in Northern Virginia where the tax property values went up on the houses. Northern Virginia is if not the most, one of the most competitive housing markets in the country because it's so close to Washington, D.C. And escalating house prices there have nothing to do with being close to a data center. That's the nature of that community. In our community, you're beholden to protect your citizens, and you're asking us to be the sacrificial lambs. That's inappropriate. And no, Mayor, I don't plan to just move as you told us to do in your last public speech. If you don't like the way that you and this council operate, you can just move. That is not the statement of a public servant. That is the statement of someone who is very self-serving. Do not vote to rezone. It's illegal and inappropriate.
Thank you.
I'm Denise May. I live at 22265 Bering Avenue. I sent an email to the council and the planning commission, so I'm not going to reread that. But I just want to say this evening that as a neighborhood, we feel like we're fighting for the quality of life for us. We're fighting for our quality of life. I really respect the fact that you have a job, you have budgets to meet, you have responsibilities to the public, and we really respect that. But please respect the fact that we live there. We live there 24/7. I know that a lot of research has been done on the Planning Commission, at least they say it has, and I'm sure you've done a lot of research yourself. But I'm just going to read a little bit of what I did email to you. TRAC's presentation to the Council, Planning Commission, and the residents of June 4th of this year stated that data centers are good neighbors, and that includes proper planning. TRAC said, and I quote, "When cities plan master growth, when they master plan growth, data centers, along with other critical infrastructure like airports, are best located away from residential centers. So they admit a data center being located near residential areas is not good. So why are they requesting to build one right next to residential areas? If they admit it's not good, then why are they requesting to do so?" In an email conversation I had with Mayor Hoyt, he stated that the city has a legal requirement to issue a finding of fact when denying an application. And I quote, "Not liking it, feeling uncomfortable with it, or any other arbitrary reasoning is not sufficient if the applicant pursues litigation." End of quote. How about the finding of fact that this rezoning looks and smells like spot zoning? How can you look at TRAC's preliminary plat plans and focus, I know you know which screen this is, focus on all of the homes. My property shares the property line with a golf course. How you can look at all of these homes and think that this would be a good idea for everybody that lived there. There would be an extreme departure in land use between residential zoning and industrial zoning. Another consideration, the Minnesota League of Cities in its zoning guide for cities says neighborhood opposition can be considered as a finding of fact when denying a zoning application. The guide says, and I quote, "While broad general statements of opposition may not qualify as a reasonable finding of fact, specific statements made by the public that are concrete and factual in nature and relate to the public welfare do rise to the level of acceptable findings." And I will stop with that. Thank you for letting us have the opportunity to share. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Terry Pearson. I live at 2475 225th Street West. And my new neighbors in this proposal not only will be 5 to 8, no, I'm wrong. They dropped it to 5-story buildings within a few hundred feet of my house, but also a gigantic substation. Isn't it lovely? What will that do to my property values? I suggest that if you decide to go through with this, that you buy my property, because it's not going to be valuable to anybody. I could not even sell it to anybody with a good moral conscience to put them through the kind of crap that's going to happen. We are the collateral damage of what is being proposed here. And there are multiple houses, multiple families, and this is what we look like. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening. I'm Nick Nelson. I live at 3095 224th Street West. Unfortunately, much like everybody here and some of my neighbors, probably gonna take a much more nuanced take than y'all. Because to be honest, 100% against this from the get-go. Felt very advantageous to the city, a sneak surprise. Tim, I'm so sorry. What's your name? Tom? Tony, excuse me. My apologies. Like last week, you made a mention of like this had kind of all kicked off last year. Meanwhile, residents first find out about it January, February. Honestly, the duty to notify and provide notice to people that live adjacent to the golf course, not even all of them receive that notice. And if it weren't for my wife and the Facebook network overall, this would have gone totally blind. I'm not sure if a lot of y'all count on that. I want to assume the best. I want to assume positive intent. I really, really do. But it doesn't feel that way. I'm not going to get into law because I don't know diddly squat about law. I'm not an attorney. But I can tell you that I work over 60 hours a week, and when I'm not working, I'm raising 4 small kids. Much like some of you that have been here for decades, I chose Farmington as my home, right? 2 years ago, moved here. Was super excited. Dream house, unbelievable, accommodating, fit the family, growth, good friends, awesome neighbors. So I went back, and unfortunately I wasn't able to attend the June 4th meeting, but of the 100 views on YouTube right now, I'm probably 5 of them. So of varying speeds to digest this as much as I can and what Track had proposed at that meeting. So much like some of my neighbors here, they mentioned not being placed in a residential spot on like slide 2 or 3, and then finally coming full circle towards the end of the meeting, adjusting, there's a caveat, there's an asterisk, it says, no, only high density, and this is not qualifying for it. Well, potato, potato, but I don't think it really counts, and being good neighbors and being good stewards. And to be fair, Tract, I'm sure, they're in the business of sales, I'm in sales. And either I'm the hardest sell or I'm the easiest sell, because a good salesperson loves a good pitch. And Kristen did the hell out of her job. I will give her that. But looking at this, like this lady just mentioned, Loudoun County, Virginia, for over 11 years, they have been the highest average income in the nation, and the average residency is anywhere from like 4 to 7 years. I should have cited that. I have not, and my apologies. But again, this general comparing of these various counties and comparing it to Farmington of what I will accept as limited, but being only a 2-year resident here, does not make sense, right? It's the same it's a different type of community. Continuing on, why they want to be here. Our climate, our power, and our water. That sounds like a them problem to me. Instead of putting it in my backyard, I'm not as close to it as some people are, but it is still pretty close, right? I will still experience whatever effects it might be. And Nick, I know you mentioned that you worked in a data center for 15 years. Unfortunately, I haven't had the time to make my own tour and make my own anecdotal evidence of my experience to the sound, but I really want to take your word for it. Again, that sounds like a them problem. I don't understand why they could not move it further into that farmland. I understand you've annexed land from our neighbors, and I'm sure there's part of that in there. The employees, 273 employees of almost 2,500 average daily trips. Sorry, I'm just literally going slide by slide. The noise pollution, let me skip ahead to slide 16. Noise pollution, not exceeding residential ambient noise. I'm very curious who's conducting this impartial study. Where is this coming from? I did not hear that asked of all these people conducting various studies and supporting these other agreements. Who's incentivized? Tract has a clear business purpose. Farmington has a clear business purpose. Revenue to the tune of $325 million over 20 years. Heck yeah, I want to make that deal all day. I really do. 100%. However, I'm very curious breaking down those numbers further and really what that looks like. Is it based off the land value? Is it based off the units built? Because if that's the case, I think Kristen said they're not all going to be built at once. So at what point in time does that realized tax revenue fully come back to our community, come back to our city, impact our schools, impact our parks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? All those various benefits that Kristen so delightfully sold on behalf of these hyperscalers. Hyperscalers for a second. Let me talk on that for 1 second. I don't think there's anything any of you can do to tell me. I would love to be wrong, and I'm the first person to admit in a room if I'm wrong, that you guys really don't know who the end user is. That's just a statement of my own opinion. Excuse me, I have a lot of notes here. To Dirk's credit, he addressed a lot of the community's concerns and addressing particular buffer zones. Phil also asked about how many jobs are truly coming from out of state. Josh, you mentioned a deed report from 2019 of 293 IT professionals and only 14 jobs being available. I really love to understand those details deeper. I understand I'm one citizen, but I think the community at large deserves to understand that. The world has changed since 2019. Sorry. So Josh, you also did a follow-up question at the end of their pitch, bringing it back around, asking questions about water. 60, 70 million gallons per year. You cited the United States Golf Association, I believe, of what the average golf course uses. And unfortunately, without fully understanding what the end user's intent is to be and what those buildings are going to look like, how can we accurately understand what the water usage is versus what the average home would use if you were going to continue to build community and build neighborhoods around us through streets, so on and so forth. But I was unable to run those numbers to get a more accurate citation for you. For the tract representative, I did not write his name down. That is the power utility thing. I feel like a lot of these answers of being like, hey, he never actually answered the question of how often these generators would be used. He did eventually come around to a point of running for about an hour per month and in emergent situations. However, the general question was still left unanswered. Katie is, I'm so sorry. Is Katie up here or is she part of the planning? Oh, Katie, thank you. I appreciate your question about the lifespan of these DCs. I really do, because the entire language building up to it, they had expressed like 10, 15 to 20 years, and they have to replace the servers, and their intent is to build this very specifically for this site. But again, I guess it's good if it is going to be a long-term continuing investment and continuing return to the city to better support its people. Cannot read what I wrote.
I want to be respectful, and everybody has an opportunity to
I
come
will
through.
wrap it up.
Okay.
I hear you.
I appreciate that.
I will wrap it up because I'm almost done with my notes because I write like the chicken. So, Josh, I guess I'll finish with you, man. That at the end, you closed asking this developer in good faith for tract to abide by what's expressed in their pitch, right? Yes. Thank you. However, and I know that there's still more to come, but nothing means anything on intent. And in sales, you use those words so you can't get pinned down. Intent, opportunity, flexible. Like, it's all worth a bucket of spit if it's not written down. So I'm very curious on how hard you lock them into these commitments. I think the community deserves to understand how hard you're going to lock these into the commitments. And I know my neighbors, however, I don't know you. And I had to do some research, and I've heard plenty of stories and engagements. And I just think it's fair for you if you had come out to our neighborhood and had some type of town hall, sat down at our tables, walked around, shook hands, kissed babies, that's your job. But because I think there is a potential net benefit to this, but instead it seems like you've given us a lot of poison. Plans change, take that. Dictatorial, not leadership, and delegate. Move if you don't like it. I made this place my home. I chose this place specifically, and I felt so lucky to be here. And that's an emotional argument, and nothing counts to an emotional argument in these types of things, but I think you get a lot further with honey than with vinegar. I pray you take these citizens, these neighborhoods into consideration, the future development and the potential that this does have for the city. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 7, which is our consent agenda. I'd seek a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Holly, second by Nick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, our first action item here under petitions is 10-1, the final plat and planned unit development, Vermillion Commons, 4th edition. Tony.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Before you this evening is the final plat and planned unit development for Vermillion Commons 4th edition. This plat consists of 67 single-family lots spread over just under 26 acres. It is consistent with the approved preliminary plat. That preliminary plat also contains 66 townhome lots, which are not part of this particular final plat. The property to be rezoned R3 planned unit development. The average lot size within the single-family portion of this development is 6,198 square feet with a minimum of 4,800 square feet. Final plat does contain 3 outlots labeled A, B, and C. Outlot A is parkland that will be dedicated. Outlot B is stormwater facility, also to be deeded to the city with this plat. And Outlot C is the future townhome portion of the development itself. So I apologize, the plat is turned, so north is to your left. But this is the overall plat. As you can see, the residential lots are along the northern and western boundary of the site, with Outlot C being the southeast portion. That is that future townhome portion. So again, just showing you the various lots within the development. Access to the site will be at the south end of the plat with the connection of 218th Street to 220th Street West. Do want to mention that 218th Street from Vermillion Commons 3rd at this time will not be extended, and due in large part to the gas pipelines that run through that particular development. One of those lines is scheduled to be decommissioned within the next year or so. And the gas company is requiring, if that is to be a road placed over that, certain requirements that would be needed. And it's just not financially feasible to do that, knowing that they're going to likely dig that up within a year to take out that gas line. So that, without that extension, it does create basically only one access point for egress and ingress to the 4th edition, and that's that connection of 218th to 220th Street on the southern end. The developer has agreed to construct a temporary bituminous emergency access that would extend from the terminus of Rose Drive south through Outlot C to 220th Street West. This would include signage and barricades at both ends of the access, and this is to control any unauthorized access. The connection of this this temporary access, will have to be approved by Dakota County as well. And the county has allowed these type of emergency accesses in the past on a number of recent developments as well. All public roads will consist of a 60-foot right-of-way with a 32-foot wide roadway. As far as parks, trails, and sidewalks, there's a 1.5 acre park, again, that is Outlot A. It's proposed on the northern end of the development. It's also contiguous to additional land that we had acquired as part of the Vermillion Commons townhome directly to the east of that as well. 5-foot wide sidewalk is proposed on the west side of Rose Drive, south side and east side of 218th Street West. And Dakota County does have a 12-foot wide trail, drainage, and utility easement, which was granted back in 2022, which runs along the western and northern boundary of the plat. The easement is shown on the plat document. As far as the planned unit development, within your packet there's a draft PUD agreement. The developer has reviewed it and finds it acceptable. The agreement does outline certain deviations, some of which are the allowance of single-family dwellings within the R3 zoning district, reducing minimum lot area for single-family lots to 4,800 square feet, reducing the minimum lot width for single-family lots to 40, and establishing the minimum setbacks for the single-family lots, which would be front of 25 feet, the side interior 6 feet, the side street 20, and rear 25 feet. The maximum lot or building coverage for single-family lots would be 45%, and allowance of private streets within the R3 zoning district, and again, that would only be for the townhome portion. And then reduce the width of the private street to 24 feet down from 26, again, only for the townhome portion. The Planning Commission did review the final plat and PUD agreement at its regular meeting on September 10th and recommended approval of both with a 5-0 vote. The action that is requested this evening is to adopt Resolution 2024-79, approving final plat and plan unit development agreement for Vermillion Commons 4th Edition, contingent upon the following. 1, the satisfaction of all engineering comments related to construction plans for grading and utilities. And number 2, a development contract between the developer and City of Farmington shall be executed, and security fees and costs shall be paid. Submission of all other documents required under the development contract shall be required.
Thank you, sir. Katie, any questions?
Can you go back to the full map of the streets? I just want to make sure I'm understanding where you would have the emergency connection there.
Yep, so
Because I thought at one point it said Rose and
Rose Drive, so where it terminates right here, there would be a bituminous drive that would come down this way and connect into 220th. So there would be 2 accesses. That one only would be for emergency vehicles.
the one off
essentially.
of Rose, not the one
Correct.
to the south. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
In our packet, it's saying,
I can't get my mouse here. It would, the emergency access would only start right
Right there.
here and go south to 220th.
but you could come in from 220th north into
Correct.
the townhomes. Okay,
Correct.
that's what I was looking for clarification on. Thank you.
Steve?
Tony, I know the trend, I don't have any concerns with the development. I'm just trying to understand how these numbers would actually work in reality. So we've got 40 feet wide, and then we've got 6-foot side setback in the interior lots, correct? So if you 6 times 2, 12 minus 40, so theoretically, what are we at? 28 feet. So unless the house is 28 feet wide, is there actually part of the side setback that's contained within the structure itself? Or is it really
No,
just 28 feet wide?
Structure would have to meet those setbacks.
Okay. And so would it happen in the development that you'd have adjacent properties having overlapping side setbacks? Or would that be a concern, or could that happen?
Overlapping setbacks?
Over
No.
side,
No, you're going to
no,
each.
because it's gonna start at each property line.
Correct.
Okay. All right, that's the only question I had.
Holly?
Well, sorry, I wasn't ready for that one. I thought you were going to Nick next, my bad.
Okay, Nick?
No, it's okay, I'm good now, I just hadn't formulated my thought fully. So along the lines of what Steve had maybe asked or alluded to is that this fulfills a gap that exists in the housing market right now. So we're looking at structures that are much narrower than what we might be used to looking at. And I've seen a neighborhood similar to this years ago in Woodbury, where when you look at the homes, they are very, very narrow. But they're filling that gap. And we've already discussed that the reduction in street width, particular to the private areas, still allows for what we need for emergency vehicles, turnarounds, all of that sort of stuff. So
Correct.
there's no concern in there. It's just a little different from what we're used to seeing.
It is.
Okay, that's really all that I have. Everything else has been asked and answered already.
Yeah, I did see some of this from the planning commission meeting, so some of those questions were already answered for me. But on the 218th topic, I'm sorry if my orientation's all messed up, but the other side of 218th is part of the 3rd edition, right?
Yeah, so you have 218th Street, which is right here. It would be the portion that would be directly to the
Okay,
east
so then my
in the
question
town.
is, when that pipe eventually comes out, is there a plan in the, anywhere, I guess it's not in this PUD, I don't think, to actually finish that road out?
They'll be required to finish that road out as part of
Okay, so that
the
would be
development
going-
contract and everything, correct?
Perfect, that was my exact question, is, does that fall under the developer or the city then? So that was the only additional question I had on this one, thank you.
for clarification, in our packet, as you go through, I think it was like on C2, C4, it's further down in the packet where it breaks down into the tighter details. On the plat, it actually has 128th Street. Is that just an error?
That's an error.
That's an error, okay. I want to make sure I was looking at the same thing, that it shows up quite a few times, it's 128th, not 218th. So the second thing is, and just, I guess I'm going to stress this to the developer's representative, because this continues to come up. When we have 6-foot side yard setbacks, I understand we have to do it for the PUD, for the density, meet the housing needs, all the things. But as the end user, we are going to stress that you continue to communicate with the homeowners about the ability to have accessory vehicle parking behind the front facade of the home. Like, we have city ordinances about trailers being parked in the driveways and everything else. When we reduce these side yard setbacks, we hear about it and the planning commission hears about it 6 months from now after they move in. So we ask that you can continue to communicate with prospective owners that the reduced setbacks are there to meet the density and the price points and all the things that everyone's looking for, but the end user doesn't always realize that until months after they've moved in and they have snowmobiles that they can't park there. So just please stress that.
Yeah,
over
I
and
will
over and
mention
over
the
again.
side yard 6-foot setback is our typical setback. They're not asking for that to be reduced. That's
Nope. I bring it up every time because it's,
People think they get more land.
you
than
can't
they do.
fit a 6-foot trailer in a 6-foot side yard setback, so, and then we have problems with it. But no, otherwise, again, you guys are, I continue to watch the development, and it is moving quickly, and it is filling a housing demand, hence having the additions coming in front of us much quicker than I think everybody expected, so I appreciate that. All right. I will seek a motion to adopt Resolution 2024 TAC 79, approving the final plat and planned unit development agreement, Vermillion Commons 4th Edition, contingent upon the following: satisfaction of all engineering comments related to the construction plans for grading and utilities, and a development contract between the developer and the city of Farmington shall be executed, and security fees and costs shall be paid. Submission of all other documents required under the development contract shall be required.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Steve, second by Nick. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Lean.
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson.
Yes.
Mayor Hoyt.
Yes.
Councilmember Burgess.
Yes.
Councilmember Burnett.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda under new business is 12 TAC 1, which is the preliminary 2025 general fund budget and tax levy. Kim.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Before we dive into the budget and tax levy, I just wanted to highlight our 4 pillars, the priorities that drive the work that we do. And here they are listed: the quality business growth and retention, supporting and growing local businesses to boost our economy, community engagement, enhancing ways we connect with and involve our community, infrastructure support, maintaining and improving our city's infrastructure like roads and facilities, and providing the highest level of service, and employee engagement, culture, and wellness, fostering a positive work environment, and supporting our employees' well-being. These are the priorities that guided the preparation of the 2025 budget. Just to take a look at the budget development, since April, we've been working on the budget. It was then that all the departments submitted their budget requests. And in June, each department sat down with myself, the city administrator, and the assistant city administrator to review their proposed budgets. Initially, those requests would have resulted in double-digit percentage increase in the tax levy. Though knowing that potential financial impact to taxpayers may be too high, departments were requested to re-examine the request to find potential reductions. And since then, the budget has been reworked and updated based on new information received. In August, we had our first work session with the City Council to get your feedback and direction. And we met again earlier this month. And after those discussions, we made more adjustments to get the preliminary budget to what we're proposing tonight. So tonight we'll review the proposed 2025 budget and ask for your approval. Just a reminder that the approved preliminary tax levy represents the maximum amount that the council can set in December, though it could be reduced. And that was the case that in 2024. It was reduced from when the preliminary levy was set. So looking at the proposed general fund revenues. So other than tax levy, the sources of revenue that the city uses to fund its general fund budget include those shown in the bar chart. In 2024, what's shown on the left-hand part of your screen, that amount totaled 4.7 million. And in 2025, you see on the right-hand side of your screen is projected to be 4.5 million. So a reduction from last year of about 200,000. The primary revenue source for the city other than tax levy is licenses and permits. That makes up a part of it. And in that is building permits. And building permits makes up about 75% of that revenue. And we're projecting increased building permit revenues based on construction trends and anticipated development activity. Intergovernmental revenue is another large chunk of that, and that includes MSA maintenance, police state aid, and fire aid, which makes up nearly 90% of the $846,000. Revenue from charges for services is anticipated to grow by about 105,000 from 2024. And that includes fees like for fire protection, along with SRO services provided to the school district. The largest item is the transfers into the general fund. That did decrease, or is projected to be decreasing in 2025. In 2024, we had transfers into the general fund to lessen the tax impacts, and those transfers for 2025 have been eliminated. So overall, the non-property tax revenues is proposed to decrease nearly 4% from 2024. We're looking at general fund expenditures, and this shows the expenditures by department. We can see that administration is about the same, decreasing just slightly. Human resources, minimal 4% increase. Police, which makes up the largest portion of the expenditures. I'm sorry, I skipped over finance and risk management. That one is projected to increase, and that's just due to a shifting of a position. So it was in another department, and now I have the front desk position that is under finance. Police, that increase is due to personnel costs and contractual services. Fire, that is also proposed to increase about 270,000. And that again is an increase of personnel costs, which includes the addition of the fire marshal in 2024. So we used savings in 2024, but it's being included in the budget in 2025. And also some protective gear that needs replacement, and also for new hires. In community development, there's a slight decrease. Engineering is showing a minimal decrease of less than 1%, and part of that is due to some of the costs that shifted into municipal services. Municipal services shows an increase of 9%, primarily due to personnel costs, increased internal fleet charges, and about 40,000 of non-EAB related forestry expenses. Park and Rec, that increase is largely due to personnel costs, internal fleet charges, and previously underfunded repairs and maintenance budgets. Transfers, an increase in funding of about $267,000 for trail and building maintenance, which largely accounts for the 7.7% increase. So overall, the total general fund expenditures equal 19.8 million, or a 5.02% increase from 2024. This is just another slide to show the expenditures, but instead of by department, it's by category. So this reflects that salary and benefits makes up our largest portion of our expenditures, reflecting 66%. This category then would cover employee wages, health insurance, pensions, and other sort of related costs. After salary and benefits, the next largest chunk is with purchase services and other charges. So this would be for consulting, professional services, and also includes utility expenses. And then the next largest chunk would be for the other financing uses, and that primarily consists of transfers out to other funds, And that allocation supports special projects and helps balance budgets citywide. So before I get into how this all affects the tax levy, just wanted to propose some of the highlights that are included in the budget. One would be the staffing. So as I mentioned, we have the fire marshal. We also have 2 community service officers. Those positions were actually added in 2024 using savings. But again, it was using savings, so it wasn't in the budget, so it 100% impacts the budget in 2025. We also have an administrative support technician, and then a couple of changes in some current positions that would just add some additional costs by the increase in hours or what a position entails. And then as shown in the previous slide, personnel costs account for 70% of the city's entire budget. So increases in these costs for 2025 are responsible for at least 3.5% of the proposed tax levy increase. We also have some transfers from the closed bond funds to reduce the debt levy. From the solid waste funds, what we have left over with that to finance the Emerald Ash Borer management costs. And general fund to fund major maintenance projects, including those are planned for 2025, trail maintenance, and the Fire Station 1 roof and skylight replacement. Other highlights, key projects with our Rambling River Center, those facility improvements should begin next year. Street reconstruction, we have the street reconstruction plan, so we have a 5-year plan identifying those projects along with mill and overlay projects. And we also have some equipment, so police fleet, leasing of the police squads, plus an addition of a CSO vehicle. And replacement of aging tasers. For public works, we have dump truck, brine equipment, sewer televising software, and an engineering vehicle. And then for parks, a John Deere tractor, replacement of a pickup truck, mower, and a brush cat attachment. And just to note that all of these are replacing equipment with the exception of that CSO vehicle, the brine equipment, and the brush cat attachment. So if we're looking at the proposed preliminary 2025 budget and tax levy, the general fund expenditures are looking to increase by 5%. The general fund revenues have a decrease of nearly 4%. And our general operating levy, then the difference between the expenditures and the revenues is 15 million or about 8%. On top of the general operating levy, there's the EDA levy and the debt levy. We add those together and we get the gross tax levy of 7.09% increase from 2024. Then you take the gross tax levy and you subtract out the fiscal disparities, which is a metro-wide program to try and even out commercial and industrial across the metro area. And then that gives us our net tax levy, and that is 14.8 million and an increase of 5.89%. And I just wanted to take a quick moment to address the proposed tax statements that residents will receive in a couple months. So the actual tax that they show on the front page specific to that property is going to show the net tax levy. But there was a recent law that requires the counties to list on the back of the statement all the cities and school districts in the county and what they had for their tax levy in 2024 and what they have for this proposed next year. And that is the certified levy or the gross levy. So even though what ultimately is paid by taxpayers is the net tax levy, what's showing on the back side, you're going to see that 7.09%. So I just wanted to clarify that even though that's listed, what it's actually paid by the taxpayers is that net tax levy of 5.89%. And next, just wanted to touch on the estimated tax rate. So as I highlighted on the previous screen, we have the gross levy. You take into consideration the fiscal disparities distribution, which lowers the impact to the residents, and we have the net levy of 4.8 million. And then we also look at the gross tax capacity, and we subtract out TIF and fiscal disparities contribution to get the net tax capacity. And it's that net levy divided by the net tax capacity that gives us our tax rate. And you use that tax rate to determine what the tax impact's going to be to a home. So for 2024, the average residential taxable market value as relayed to us by Dakota County is $345,000. So it's slightly less than what it was in 2023. And just to know that even though I'm referencing 2024 market value, that is what is used, that assessment year for 2024 is used to calculate your 2025 taxes. And so if you wanted to figure out whether your tax rate's gonna, or what the potential taxes you are gonna pay, you're gonna take that tax rate, which I showed in the previous slide, take that and multiply it by this at 1%. So like $3,450, 1% of the 345,000. Take that rate, tax rate, multiply it by that. That's what kind of taxes you're gonna see for 2025, estimated. So in 2024, the estimated taxes for the average home, that would have been based on 351,000, was $1,584. For 2025, based on the estimated market value of 345,000, the city portion of the taxes would be $1,650. So it'd be an increase of $66 per year or $550 per month. Requested action tonight is to approve Resolution 2024-77, adopting the preliminary 2025 budget and setting the preliminary tax levy collectible in 25, and also setting the public input meeting for the final 2025 budget and tax levy to be held on Monday, December 2nd, 2024 at 7 p.m. That is all I have for this evening, and I will try to answer any questions at this time if you have them.
Thank you, ma'am. Nick, we'll start with you.
I'll start at the other end. I need a little bit to digest.
Need to digest? Holly?
I don't know that I necessarily have any questions. I deeply appreciate all of the work that was put in by all of the departments, as well as your work, Kim, in order to make this not only digestible for those of us that don't deal with finance at this level every single day, but also something that I truly believe is probably the most manageable outcome, and knowing that it's, high level with where we're at right now, and it can always go down. One of the hard things about what we have to do is understand that we can't just arbitrarily throw out like a percentage that we might feel comfortable with and then just hope that it's going to fill all of the needs that the city has. And I don't know about anybody else, but my life is costing a lot more than 5% more than it did last year. And so while it's never fun to see an increase in tax, many things in this world are costing more than 5% more than they did a previous year. And so I'm incredibly proud of the work that's been done to try to keep it as low as we can while still meeting the expectation for core services and the things that absolutely need to be done, because we just can't pretend that they don't need to be done. Not a question, more of a statement. That's all.
Thank you. Katie?
I would echo what she said. Having gone through many of these budget proposals over the years, this is one of the most seamless ones that I've been part of, and I think that's a testament to the staff that put this together and the collaboration that you all had to get us to this number tonight. So thank you for all your work in putting this budget together.
Steve?
Yeah, I would also echo the previous two comments. Having been on the council a couple different periods of time, it is, you really see how well the council and the staff work together, and that really cannot be understated when it comes to the budget part of it. I mean, starting from Lynn and the whole team, really, and you, Kim, pointing out kind of our council goals and, how we look at working together and how we want to manage the city efficiently and effectively for the community. As Holly and Katie pointed out, a really seamless, really good budget process. Some of the things that the average resident wouldn't necessarily note are the fact that we have, thanks to John, really well organized street improvement plans and expenses for streets, for trails, for Emerald Ash Borer, which we really had neglected as a city for years, and it's caught up with us. And thanks to the work of John and his team, I mean, you know, all of our residents today are taking care of that. I agree. I mean, 5% is 5%, and, you know, you can't pretend it's not. But when you look at all the things I mentioned, 2 CSO community service officers, which are out there serving both the general public and our school district, and so many of the other components, I am really quite happy with this year's budget and how it turned out, at least at this point. So thank you.
Nick?
You've all made me feel better because I was trying to digest things. There was something in there, but the fact that you were also comfortable too is why I think I feel comfortable too. It's been beaten into us very well, like all the data behind why you guys put forward what you do, and I really appreciated it. It really makes it painless on my part to have to question anything you guys ask for because it's all so justified to me, I guess. So, great job.
Kim, well put together. You know, each year we ask for, again, as our commitment to transparency, putting more and more information out there, showing where they are, where the dollars are, what department, you know, trying to list as many of the expenditures, you know, it's telling the story, right? And that goes back to Lynn. I mean, we changed our budget process last year, and it is, I think every one of us sitting here will say that it has made the process a lot more efficient, more transparent, and easier to understand just where each one of the lines go. Because there's a lot. We don't do it every day, and it can be a mess to try and read through. But you know, to our team, not just those that are sitting here, but everybody at Team Farmington, like, y'all continue to make concessions. And even through that list, we're not out there buying flashy new stuff. We're not adding to. We're trying to catch up still. Like, we are, for so long, we have other problems, right? And we've fixed some of that, and we're trying to work our way through to not diminish services to our residents, to make sure that we have the proper equipment and the proper staffing to make the calls, to do the work, with as minimal impact to our residents as possible. And I know we don't spend percentages, but for the average person, $66 a year, we have to start delivering on things that the residents can see. And we committed to that a few years ago. Going back almost 4 years now, we're doing more projects, more things that the residents can see. And I can't thank you enough for your commitment to our community, to the work that still needs to be done every day. That pie chart said 66% of it's in salaries, right? Nobody's getting high on the hog. Like, and we've gone through this with 75th percentile and, you know, what the private market pays, and even in police and fire. I mean, there's places that hire fire, right? And everybody is doing everything that they can. And I hope the residents see that. I hope the residents understand that this city continues to do what it can with what it has without burdening our residents, because there has to be a threshold. And I appreciate my peers and everything we've done to get it to 5% and not 9, 10, 11, 12 like some of our neighbors. And I feel comfortable with where we're at. So I appreciate everybody's hard work and commitment to getting to this point. With that, we look for motion to approve Resolution 2024 Tax 77, adopting the preliminary 2025 budget and setting the preliminary tax levy collectible in 2025 as proposed, and to set the public input meeting for the final 2025 budget and tax levy to be held on Monday, December 2nd, 2024 at 7 p.m.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Steve.
Second.
Second by Holly. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Wilson.
Yes.
Mayor Hoyt.
Yes.
Councilmember Burgem.
Yes.
Councilmember Burnett.
Yes.
Councilmember Lean.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, roundtable. Leah, you'd start.
Great. Judicial news this time, again. The Commission on Judicial Selection has recommended 5 candidates to fill 2 judgeship positions that are chambered in Hastings. So just a little civics lesson, that a lot of things get processed through the courthouse in Hastings, Apple Valley, and West St. Paul. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Nick?
Thank you to everybody that was participated in some sort of homecoming activities last week. I know that's kind of school board, but it was kind of exciting for everybody. That was an incredible football game to be at, and fun with the band, fun with everything about it. So just thank you for everyone for making it feel like a good community.
Holly?
Yeah, some fun community stuff. For those that follow anything with FHS Theater, the fall play and spring musical have been announced. So the fall play is Noises Off, and that'll be happening at the end of November. The spring play is coming up in March, and it's going to be Guys and Dolls. And so I know many of us follow sports to different degrees, but my kids happen to be choir and theater kids, so I happen to follow that as much. And so if you're looking for something really great to do with the family, those things are coming up. Also, there is a group here within Farmington. They actually did the haunted house at the Dakota County Fairgrounds for almost 2 decades. And it's the Support Our Troops Haunted House organization. And this organization is part of what funds the Veterans War Memorial that you see out at Rambling River Park. And they do an annual fundraiser. And since they have stopped doing the haunted house, they have actually changed it to a haunted gala, which is basically a fancy word for a costume party. And it's held at the Grand Event Center in Northfield, and that's coming up on October 26th. It's open for 18 plus. It's a great way to support the troops, and also if you happen to like dressing up for Halloween, I will go head to head with anybody that thinks that they can beat my Halloween costuming. But no, we just love to have you out there. It's a great group of people that are committed to and dedicated to honoring military families, past and present, letting them know that they've not been forgotten, helping them to get through difficult times, maybe times of transition, maybe just times of extra needed support. And so if you just feel like that you're being called to support that in some way, obviously, I don't think they would deny any donations, but more than that, come out and have a good time and dress up and have some Halloween fun. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Katie?
I want to thank all the residents who came out and spoke tonight. I do think it's very important that you advocate for yourself and for your community. And so I appreciate the respectful comments that were made here this evening and those who have also emailed us with their thoughts. I said this to a resident at our last meeting. We don't often hear from residents, so I think that it is important when you do have something to say that your voice is heard. And so thank you for sharing that with us, whether it's over email or at some of our recent meetings. With that, since I am not on the ballot, I am going to call out that there is a candidate forum coming up for both mayor and council positions. And so if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about those candidates, I would encourage you to look for that information. It's going to be hosted by the Dakota County Regional Chamber here in the chambers.
Thank you.
Awesome. I have no comments tonight.
Lynn?
All right, I have 2 comments that I'd like to make. Thank you for the great budget presentation, Kim, and it really does take a team here. I just am amazed at how well the team does work together and nobody's fighting over the funds. And we do realize that there's a fine balance of getting things done and also providing a high quality service to this resident, to the community, the residents and the businesses. So thank you again, everybody. And some exciting news. Homestead Community Church, Farmington Rotary, and the city are working together to create the first lighted holiday parade. We're very excited. On last Thursday, we did have a meeting open to businesses to get some input on feedback on the parade of what we have planned so far. We had about 25 different agencies show up, so that was exciting, but more planning to come, but just wanted to throw that out there. And Christmas in the Village is also that day, so we're gonna be working with them and making sure that we complement each other's event, and we're excited to see what's to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just
Shirley?
one thing, absentee voting for the general election starts Friday.
Wow.
We just finished the primary.
September.
Julie?
I have no comments tonight.
Deanna?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just one thing I would like to add. On October 8th from 10:30 to 12:30, the Emery Apartments will be doing their grand opening. This is an exciting project, and we've all watched this vision come to life on the corner, and the public is welcome to come and celebrate the opening. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Two major milestones. The wearing course on the 2024 street improvements is expected to go in on Saturday, actually, and it's sodded. They're doing some minor patching today, but they'll be ready for wear course later in the week, and they're looking at Saturday, weather permitting. We're also distributing flyers for the 2024 mill and overlay area. We had a pre-construction meeting with McNamara Contracting. They plan to start that work next week. So that was a little quicker than we thought. So instead of mailing notices, we're actually delivering flyers. And they'll be working through the project area within about a week or so, including all the milling and paving. So that's great news.
Thank you, sir. Kelly?
Open Door pop-up food pantry is tomorrow at the Rambling River Center from 3 to 4:30. It's going to be hot again tomorrow, so I would encourage people to come towards the back end. I know last month we had people starting to line up at 2 o'clock wrapped around the building, so they will still have food at the end of the food event. So if you come towards the back end, you won't have to wait in that long line in this nice fall heat. We now have Wi-Fi in 4 parks: Rambling River Park, Sunny Hills Park, Tamarack Park, and Westview. I want to give a shout out and a huge thanks to Peter Gilbertson and Ted Novak for all their work on getting the Wi-Fi here and putting up the cameras and testing things and getting it loaded. Without those two gentlemen's efforts, it wouldn't have come to fruition, and they're out there every week working on it. And finally, after a long delay to get a drinking fountain, we finally have a drinking fountain installed at Rambling River Park with water today and with a bottle filler. So if you forget your water at home, you have a bottle in your car, we do have water there now. So thank you.
Thank you.
Kim?
I already did way too much talking tonight, so I have no comment.
Chief?
Again, Wednesday, our open house, September 18th, 5:30, Station 2, family event. Fire Marshal hasn't told me everything that's going to happen, so I'm just as going to be as surprised as what you guys are going to see. So again, Wednesday, September 18th, 5:30, our open house.
This is going to be the first year that you got weather in your favor in a while.
You just jinxed it.
No, it'll be warm regardless. Chief?
I have no comments tonight.
All right. Julie? You won't make another meeting, will you? This is last. You will not. Been with us a few years. Came in and started a combined position, and both human resources and the assistant city administrator, and you'll be moving on and moving. And I just, on behalf of everyone at the city of Farmington, on behalf of the council, thank you for everything that you've done for us. We had a pretty significant transition coming in, and it's not the easiest department to work in, right? But no, in all seriousness, thank you for everything. Thank you for being a part of the team, even for the short time that you've been here. It flew by quick, and we wish you nothing but the best of luck, and enjoying your travel. So thank you, ma'am. Yep. With that, we look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Steve.
Second.
Second by Nick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned at 8:08.